The idea has probably been around since our ancestors first walked upright on 2 feet. And the idea is this, that the use of force, the use of might, the use of power and authority is the most effective way to get other people to do what we want. We see this all the time. It's the way society seems to work, from our families all the way up. I mean, for instance, for you who were parents, how often when you were at the dinner table with your little kids and you told them, eat your vegetables, and they said, why? And you said, because I said so. That's power. Or if you're driving down the road a little bit too quickly and a policeman stops and says, if I catch you going over the speed limit again, you're going to get a ticket. That's power. I mean, I'd slow down until he turned the corner. Or the boss tells you, if you miss one more day's work, you're out of here. I mean, those are all instances when, as people who hear those words, we conform, and rightfully so, because there's an implied threat in each of them. And this is the type of interaction we're used to between people with authority, people with power, and those without. And while in some ways the use of force may be effective and sometimes even necessary, what force usually produces in others is compliance, not agreement. When we're forced to do something, we might do it, but only because we're being forced to, not because we want to. And oftentimes, after we respond to force, there's some resentment or possibly even anger involved. But the trouble is often in our society, in our families, we use force rather than as a last resort, we use it as our first line of attack. It's no wonder then that we today, as well as the ancient Israelites, are looking for a vastly different type of king than Jesus proved to be. A king ought to be powerful, his every word obeyed, or else. A king should be able to impose his will on others. A good leader, after all, has to be strong, decisive, single-minded. However, force has never changed another person's values. Force has never changed the way another person thinks. After I was compelled to eat my broccoli, I still didn't like it. Force has never been able to transform a human heart. Just doesn't work that way. And so along comes Jesus, King of kings, master of the universe, creator of everything that is, the most powerful being ever, always was, is, and always will be. I mean, you can't compete with that kind of power. But he doesn't act like we think someone powerful should act. I mean, look, Jesus is born in a stable. He's raised in a dinky backwater town. He takes possession of his city, Jerusalem, riding on a donkey. His crown is made of thorns. His throne is the cross. I mean, what kind of king is that? It's pathetic when you think of it. It's almost laughable. Jesus just doesn't fit in with our idea of a powerful leader, let alone the King of all creation. Quite honestly, he seems a little weak, a little ineffectual. I mean, he can't even stand up to a small group of soldiers who come out to arrest him. I mean, surely if he was powerful, if he was the king of the Jews, king of all creation, his armies should have been there to save him. Even on the cross, one of the two thieves says to him, "Hey, buddy, if you are the king of the Jews, save yourself and us." But he doesn't do it. Jesus is God come to earth to turn us from sin, to change our hearts. And he realizes, perhaps more than we do, that force will not change our hearts. The force he uses is simply the power of his love. Because Jesus realizes, as king, that love can accomplish what force never can. Love can help us, can inspire us to change our ways, to change our attitudes, to change the way we live. But have you ever heard of anything so crazy? Jesus lovingly invites us to follow him. He challenges us to turn away from things in life which will enslave us and finally destroy us. He invites us to find ultimate happiness in him. This is our leader. This is our king. This is the one who is king now, king of all creation, and yet at the end of time will gather everything. Incredible. This king of the world, this king of our hearts. He will gather everything, all of us, hopefully, and present us to the Father and say, "Father, you sent me to earth to bring your children home." And here they are. Not because I made them come, but because I loved them and they loved me back. And so the question I think we have to ask ourselves, if this is the kind of leader Jesus is, if this is the kind of the way in which he encourages us to change, has it affected, first of all, the way in which we treat others? Now, most of us, at least society, would consider us, you and me, over the hill, so I'm not sure what kind of power we have anymore in society. But in your dealings with others, do you invite or do you coerce? Do you force or do you love? And secondly, have we allowed Jesus' love to change us? Have we allowed Jesus' love to change what we think, what we believe, what we consider important? In other words, have we let the example of this king so take root in our hearts that we too love, that we too respond to God, that we too long to be with him in his kingdom?